Hello everyone, this is Sheila Shaffie and welcome back to ProcessArc's channel where we provide you with digestible business insights. I wanted to switch gears a little bit today and talk about the softer skills that we need in order to be successful. And I wanted to switch gears predominantly because I realized after looking at the whiteboard where we've highlighted all the topics that we'll be discussing in this channel, that everything almost exclusively is focused on the left side of the brain. The hard analytical skills and problem-solving methodologies that we're going to need in order to become creative problem solvers and innovators for our organization. And that's great, but sometimes the success and the longevity of the solutions that we come up with have actually less to do with the technical ideas that we've identified and more to do with the soft skills that we employ in order to get everybody on board with the solution, again, that we've come up with. I learned about the softer skills that were needed kind of the hard way as a young engineer at General Electric, and believe me, I got my head kicked in a couple of times by the operators on the shop floor, and it was no surprise. Really, when I think back at it, I was just viewed as some young punk that was getting sent down by management to tell those guys that probably knew the machines and the equipment and the products better than anybody else. I was being sent down there to tell them how to do things differently. And it was really through that learning lesson on the shop floor that I realized I really had a blind spot. And if I wanted to be better at my job, better at coming up with good solutions, better at getting people to buy into my ideas, I had to also acquire a different type of skill set. And that's today known more as the change management skills. When I was sent to get some leadership training, I got exposed to a fantastic equation. And I wanted to share that equation with you so that you can also get an appreciation of why it's not just going to be enough for us to build on technical skills, but also the softer skills. And there are tools, there are methodologies out there that can help us attain some of these softer skills in order for us to be successful. So here it is. Here's the equation that I wanted to show you. Q times A equals E, which we can read as our quality strategy, the solution that we come up with, multiplied with the acceptance level of the organization, will ultimately define how effective and beneficial our solution will be for the organization. Think of Q as our solution or idea that we come up with our team, and think of A as the change management strategy or tools that we're going to use to ensure that we get acceptance. This simple equation helps determine why some projects are successful while others deliver minimal benefits or are abandoned or reprioritized before they even gain any ground. The equation highlights a need for perfect harmony between the caliber of our solution and the business unit's desire to accept it in order to deliver benefits. Here's what I mean. If you come up with a brilliant idea, which is represented by Q, but people put up resistance to accepting it, which means that you have very low acceptance level, that means that our solution will not really deliver the kind of change that we expect. Okay, let me put some stuff in terms of numbers for you. So I really work hard and I come up with a new product offering for the company. And so let's give a score of 100% for my idea. I think that this new product is going to really impact our revenue for next year, but only 10% of the executives that I need accept this new product. So 100% multiplied by 10% acceptance level gives me 10% effectiveness level, which means that it didn't really matter in this particular example how much analysis I did, how brilliant this idea was. If I can't get the people rallied around this idea, I am not going to deliver a heck of a lot of benefits for the organization. Now, let me erase all of this for a second and give you another example. I come up with a totally mediocre solution to help address our late shipment problem. And so this mediocre solution, let's say now the score I'm going to give myself for this particular solution is at 50% mark. It's not great, it's not that bad, but the organization absolutely loves it. Maybe because it's a simple change, or maybe because people are really overly optimistic as to what this solution can ultimately deliver for the organization. So, okay, fine. I'll give myself 100% in this situation. I know that whatever change I'm going to impose, people are going to accept it and do exactly what I'm asking them to do. But again, a 50% mediocre solution times 100% acceptance level is again only going to give me 50% effectiveness. Not bad. It's better than the 10% example I gave you. But again, it is not an optimal solution that we're delivering to the business. So for all of us whose left brain, like me, dominate the way we think, hopefully I've convinced you a little bit that we also have to give equal weight to the change management side of our project, which is the A side of this equation. Now, lucky for us, there are change management tools that will help safeguard us from large-scale resistance. And I'm going to share with you the framework that we use. And one of the tools I'm going to share with you today that helps us start us on the journey of ensuring that we get acceptance as the project is beginning. Here's a framework we use for change acceptance. Each project goes through 3 major milestones. You've got the current state, a transition state, and then the improved state. And depending on where you are, there are different change management or change acceptance tools that you can use to help you get the acceptance you need to move the project forward. Creating a shared need and vision practically spans the entire life cycle of the project, as does shaping the vision. Mobilizing commitment becomes very important when you're beginning to enter the transition state and remains important until we finally reach the improved state. And then monitoring progress and changing systems and structures are elements we need to think through for long-term success. Just remember that change acceptance milestones are needed to safeguard us from resistance that comes from change. The sooner we get alignment and consensus, the easier it will be for us to build and maintain momentum in our project. I would like to share with you one of those tools, starting with creating a shared need or vision. Let's first start with, why is it that we have to create a need and a vision, and what exactly are we after? So as we talked about earlier on, when we work on projects, fundamentally what we're going to end up doing by the end of that project is introducing change to the organization. And so change by its nature is going to have resistance associated with it. So coming up with a need and a vision at the very beginning of the project is going to make sure that you have identified points of resistance and apathy within the organization so that you can come up with ways to address it. It also helps everybody within your team and also with the key constituents that are going to be involved in the project figure out why it's important to do this project now. And ultimately, because of that buy-in and understanding of the need for the project, you can start building momentum around it. So fundamentally, what we're going to be after is a wake-up call for the organization that allows you to create a shared recognition as to why change is needed and that the status quo is no longer going to be accepted, or rather cannot be accepted within the organization. And ultimately, it is going to allow you to create a framework to highlight both the threats and the opportunity for the business. Here's a quick assessment. Ask these couple of questions from yourself, and based on those answers, you will need to know the extent by which you will have to create a shared need or a vision. Is everyone on the team aligned as to why the change is needed? Have you discussed the opportunity in terms of what the customer may need or want? If you were to ask each of your team members separately why they think this project is important, would you get the same answer from them? Do they have the same understanding of why it's important for us to change the way we do things? Are the constituents, the people within the business whose help and support you're going to need, understand how this initiative may impact them, or again, why it's important to pursue it? If you begin to get a sense that you don't have alignment, you don't have consensus, you're not getting the same consistent response from people as to what this project is all about, what it means for our customers, why the status quo is not going to be accepted or shouldn't be accepted, then you certainly will need to use the tool that I'm about to share with you to start framing the need and the vision for the project. Here's the tool that I was talking about, which is a simple threat versus opportunity matrix that you can use with your team to begin to frame out what the short and long-term threats and opportunities are. The best way to use this tool is to get your team, which hopefully is a cross-functional team, in a room and start to brainstorm ideas that then you can categorize in each one of those boxes. And when I talk about a cross-functional team, let's take the onboarding of a new customer as a project that you may be working on. Make sure that you've got people from the field or the sales arena, as well as operations, as well as risk, compliance, legal, whoever that is impacted by the project or directly contributes to the project in one way or another, involved in the business. Because the more people that are tangentially or directly involved in the project understand why it is that we need to do things differently, the easier it will be for you to gain momentum and consensus and support for your project. Here's a template that's already been filled out to help you get a deeper understanding of the kinds of elements we're looking for. Here was an example of a project where we were working on delivering welcome packets to customers that had recently been onboarded to an insurance company. So they had just bought a new life insurance policy, for example. So the issue was that we couldn't consistently deliver the welcome packets to these customers. The threat short term was, of course, we identified, or the team rather identified, that we could lose the trust of a brand new customer. And that could also result in us getting delayed payments from them as part of their monthly life insurance contributions. And the fact is that if welcome packets weren't delivered on time, there was certainly going to be an increase in incoming calls. We may need to send out a duplicate packet to the customer that would increase our mailing cost, and the opportunities, or rather the threats short term, that kept going on and on. What we highlighted here were the ones that the team thought were the most important. Now, long-term threats will be that if we lose the trust of a customer, it will reduce our ability to cross-sell products to them in the future. We could even potentially lose that customer. Now, flipping the coin to the other side, looking at short-term opportunity, of course, if we could deliver those packets on time for the customer, we would continue to hopefully hold on to them as a loyal customer. We would hold on to our competitive advantage and continue to hold on to the trust that we built with them during the sales cycle. And from a long-term perspective, of course, when a customer is loyal and they trust us, it will be easier for us to do incremental business with them and also get referrals. So this is a great tool that you can use with your team. Brainstorm for an hour, talking about what you could gain short term, what you could potentially lose short term and long term. Put it in this matrix, and I will show you in the next set of tools how you can use these elements that you've come up with to now come up with a vision statement, which then ensures consistency of language and understanding across your entire team and the key constituents, again, around why this project is important to do now. Ultimately, what you're trying to do is guard against having your project derailed at some point in the duration of its life cycle. And the derailment can really come from the fact that you don't have consensus amongst your team members or the people that are subject matter experts or supporting you as to why this project is important. We've made an assumption somewhere down the line that they understand why it's important for us to assign resources and time to getting this project done. And fundamentally, creating a shared need and vision is going to help you smooth the way for change. And change by its nature is incredibly difficult for people. It can be deemed intrusive, it can be deemed threatening. So getting people on board at the very beginning of your project, getting them to participate in understanding the vision and the need is ultimately your risk mitigation plan in ensuring that your project can not only start successfully, but also complete successfully. Okay, so we discussed the importance of change management as part of your overall skill set that you will have to attain in order to become an effective critical thinker and innovator in your organization. We discussed one of the tools around change management. If you guys have more interest, if you want to know more about the change management tools that we use, please leave a comment or a question or a thought below, and we will build additional content around it, because there's certainly a lot more tools around change management that go hand in hand with the different phases that you will go through when it comes to identifying the project, measuring it, analyzing it, improving it, and ultimately putting it under control. So depending on where you are in the project, you will need to rely on different change management tools to ensure that you've mitigated against all risk and that you're going to be successful on a long-term basis. I thank you again for joining us today, and I look forward to seeing you again next week.